Good morning once again. We're now going to continue with two 20-minute talks, or talks of up to 20 minutes, before we break for lunch. Our first lightning speaker is Rohit Sharma from Medical IT Advisors, who is talking to us about vulnerability management with his talk, Vulnerability Management 101 with OWASP DefectDojo. So please welcome Rohit.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Rohit Sharma, and I'm the Security Operations Manager for Medical IT Advisors. First of all, let me thanks to all our sponsors, hosts, and a special thank to my team and New Zealand cyber community, without whom I won't be here today. Now, today, I will be talking about what is vulnerability management and why do we need it, and introducing you all to an open source and free vulnerability management tool, DefectDojo. I will be also talking about the lessons we learned and the next steps that we will be working on as an organization to further improve our current implementation of DefectDojo tool. Year 2020 was the worst year ever in our lifetime, not just because of COVID-19 pandemic, but also because of the data breaches that we have experienced in the last year or so. Now, especially the health sector was hit hardest. And now, at the moment, health sector is trying to deal with the current situation, at the same time going through the rapid digital transformation. It is very natural that the cybersecurity threats and attacks will increase and attack healthcare organizations and beyond more than ever. Every 1 in 5 organizations experienced a data breach due to unpatched vulnerabilities. I'm from this place, Wellington. Who else here is from Wellington? Can I please see your hands? Okay, I'm not the only one. Wellington is famous for its winds, and there are other famous things about Wellington. Tuora campus health breach. This was New Zealand's biggest ever breach in the health sector. Up to 1 million health records were put at risk during this breach. And the cause of this breach was exploitation of publicly known web vulnerabilities. It all started with the defacement of their public website in 2019, and when incident responders started looking into their IT systems, they found the initial compromise happened back in 2016, and this vulnerability didn't only affect this organization, but also some other organizations like Institute of Directors. And if you would like to know more about this incident or similar incidents, don't ask me. Please Google it. Or you can ask that guy, suspicious-looking guy sitting over there, who was involved in the incident response during this Tuora campus health breach. That's my boss, by the way. Guess what? We learned a lot about this, about unpatched softwares and fixing it. And we are still learning about it. Now, let's get straight to the point. What is vulnerability management? In theory, it's a cyclic process containing 5 important steps. In step 1, we define our scope. So basically, we identify the assets or the web services to test, and then we test these assets or endpoints using the vulnerability assessment tools of your choice, and then report it. But obviously, you just test it and report. You first validate all the findings, eliminate the false positives, and then report it to the stakeholders. And the next step is prioritization. So you prioritize all the findings and the vulnerabilities based on their threat context. Afterwards, we can choose either to apply mitigation steps or accept the risk, which is usually not a good idea. And the fourth step is reassessment. So we retest the same endpoints or services for looking for the same vulnerability, making sure that after applying the mitigation steps, those vulnerabilities are not there anymore. And lastly, we have improvement process. So we can use all the data made available to us during the first few steps and use it to improve our processes, SLA, and use it for future references. Now, I've been working in the health industry for the last couple of years. And one of the biggest issues that I have seen with our clients is, even if they are doing vulnerability assessments, but they are not really managing the vulnerabilities. And this is what I mean by that. They are either following a couple of steps in this cycle or following the whole process, but partially. Now, this leads to lack of traceability, visibility, and no one end up fixing the problem. And when we scan the same endpoint or test the same endpoint or the service again, we find the same vulnerabilities over and over again. And when an incident or a near miss happens, this is how teams end up internally, pointing fingers at each other. But as we all know, this really doesn't help anyone. So let's take a step back. Now, reporting. Manual reporting is one of the biggest issues that I have experienced. So imagine creating manual reports for multiple customers having multiple services and doing this every month. I can tell you it's not a fun job when you do it manually. It was such a pain for me, but not anymore, because we have, I will tell you what, now I sound like a salesman. So I hope all of us know that with every new update or a change in your source code or underlying infrastructure, there is a possibility of a new vulnerability being discovered. And guess what? Bad guys know it too. And that's why we see them continuously scanning the web, looking for publicly exposed web services or your websites, and trying to find the vulnerabilities to exploit it. And then they are successful at some level in this. Now, what we need is to manage continuous vulnerability assessment process. And to do this, I'm going to introduce you to a tool which is going to help us to achieve pretty much all of this. DefectDojo. So DefectDojo is a free and open source tool which streamlines the testing process by providing some great features such as importing test reports from different vulnerability assessment tools such as Nessus, Burp, Qualys, you name it, and in several formats like XML or CSV. And then you have full traceability we can generate reports in just a few clicks. It's way easier. And it also provides us some good metrics and integration with Jira, etc. Now, if you like metrics, I do when it works. So, as you can see on your left, this is the landing page in the DefectDojo. And on your right, this is the metrics of a product at a product level. Now, this is very helpful. It gives you the high-level view of the vulnerable state of all your endpoints under that product. And DefectDojo has a workflow, starting from product type all the way to test and finding. I'm going to explain each one of this quickly in the next slides. Now, product type. A product type is any logical separation of types of products. For example, you can have web application product type, and then another one would be a network asset product type. Under network asset, you can have, under this product type, you can have several products. For example, under network asset, you can have a product like your firewall or a VPN server that is related to network, which makes sense to you. And a product is just a name of any project you are working on. And in this case, MITA websites. MITA stands for our company, and websites mean, you know what it is. And then here, you can also see that it shows you under what product type this product comes under. Under products, you have engagements. Now, the first two things that I just showed you, product type and product, you just create it once, usually, for every organization, and then afterwards, you keep on adding the engagements as you do the test. So, for example, in our case, we do monthly security assessments or vulnerability assessments for our customers. And every month, I create a new engagement and upload the test results under it. And you can see the date and how many findings are there, the number of tests, and all of those details. This is how the tests look like. So you can upload as many tests as you want. And now, this is an overview of a product when you upload one or more scan or test results. It gives you, we can add executive summary, basically giving you a good idea of what the overall vulnerable state or security state of your endpoints looks like, and conclusions, recommendations, plus you have visibility over how many highs, mediums, lows are there, and you can jump straight into that. For example, if there are only low or infomercial findings, you maybe don't want to look at it today, you're too busy. But if you have critical vulnerabilities or high, you can jump on it. And I believe this is very helpful. And at the top, as you can see, you have several options, such as endpoints. Now, let's say you have several endpoints of web services, and you just want to look into the most critical endpoint and the vulnerabilities under it. You can go straight to the endpoints, select your endpoint, and you will have a list of vulnerabilities related only to that particular endpoint or service. Now, this is the findings page. And DefectDojo provides the most functionality on this particular page. And we have several options. So this list is related to the vulnerabilities found when testing all your endpoints. And you can do several things here. For example, you can select the vulnerabilities, you can change the severity level, you can mark it as out of scope, false positives. And then, if you want to know more details about a particular vulnerability, you click on it, and now, or you view it, and you see all these options. So basically, it will give details about what this vulnerability is about, the mitigation steps, the request and responses, if they were being recorded by the original tool. And I couldn't capture all the options in this screenshot, but you also get a comment section. For example, if I'm looking into this, I can say, okay, Rohit is working on it. So the next team member who comes, they know what's happening, or anything that makes sense to you. And from here, you can edit the finding, close it, again, change the severity level. And let's go to the reporting part. Now, you can create reports at several levels in DefectDojo. You can go to any endpoint and create a report specific to that endpoint, or you can use a report builder and create custom reports, add your logos and pictures, etc. Here is a view from the view findings level. Now you can add and select several filtering options. For example, if you don't want any false positives or out of scope items in your report, you can simply choose from yes and no, and there are so many options, and with just one click, you have this. I don't know if you realize the importance of this. Hopefully you do, because this saves a lot of time that you can utilize to do some other things. Now, this is how we do it. It's like a recap. So I basically use these three tools, Nessus, Burp, and Map, import the findings in DefectDojo, and also manually discovered findings. You can manually create findings in DefectDojo, and after that, we validate all the findings, eliminate false positives, and send out notifications to our clients. Now, if you repeat this process regularly, you can also use this tool for your internal audits or compliance purposes. The next steps. We are planning and working towards it to utilize DefectDojo REST APIs to automatically import all these reports from several vulnerability assessment tools. You have an extension for tools like Burp, and import all these vulnerabilities automatically into DefectDojo. We are also working on implementing DefectDojo in CI/CD pipeline, and also implementing webhook to get an alert on specific activities. Now, you can download or clone DefectDojo repository from GitHub. And finally, thank you all for your time and listening to me. And this is my LinkedIn. If you want to connect or have a chat, please come and approach me. And we are hiring. Thank you. Thanks for your time.